Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. I'm here for the paper talk this morning. Sorry for being late. I'll be honest, I've been setting up in here and look where I am. Stretford Paddock HQ for the first time in a very long time. That's because I don't have internet at home at the moment, just for one day, because I'm moving flat tomorrow. So the internet's been cut off, so I can't work from home. So I've had to come in. There's no one here. I'm self-isolated still. Don't worry, I haven't seen anyone all the way in. Come down the stairs. Here I am. Look where I am. Oh, sorry I'm late, everyone. You know it's not like me. How's everyone doing at home? On what is the 29th of April, a Wednesday no less, halfway through the week, every week just like the last week, but this week we've got some big news. Again, sorry for the lateness, sorry for my tardiness, it's something I aim to cut out, but you know, today was a difficult day in terms of internet and setting up cameras and such. But we're here now, and that's all that matters. It's nice to be back in here, not done a video in here in a very long time. Hi everyone. No, I'm joking. Empty. Right, first of all then, let's get into it. Thomas Partey loves Man United, apparently, according to Sadiq Adams. Cam saying sack Joe in the comments. Surprised he woke up for the comments this morning. Nice. So many excuses. It's not excuses, I'm explaining what's going on to people. Do you think this is my bedroom? And if not, could you see that there may be difficulties setting something new up in a new place? Jeremy Vella. First of all, let's get straight into you, mate. Welcome to the Academy. He's joined our illustrious list of members here at the channel. Thank you very much for joining. You getting some excellent rewards for that. We're going to be putting out a behind-the-scenes video, hopefully this week. Well, I say hopefully, this weekend. It's coming out this weekend. And there's also a podcast already for you to check out as well. Just quickly, before we get into the news, a quick port of call, should I say. Any of the legends who are on the Legends tier, and if you haven't put your, there's a membership, in the members tab, there is a form to fill in terms of where we send in your loot crates and stuff like that. If you haven't filled that in, go and check that out and make sure you fill that in so we can get everything sent out to you to the right address and to the, a time that is suitable. Also, if your YouTube name isn't your real name, make sure you put your YouTube name in your email as well so we know who this is going to, so we can sort of cross-reference everything. That is it. That's that out of the way. Joey's squatting in the studio. No, I'm actually sat on a chair. Right, Thomas Partey then. And this is coming from Sadiq Adams, as we've spoken about. He said that yesterday, a source close to Thomas Partey told me the player doesn't want to extend his stay at Atletico and is favouring a move to the Premiership, and that he loves the United link. Deal could even be done sooner than expected. Starting to believe this whole thing. And that's got 8,000 likes. Now, here's the point for you. No one's ever heard of Sadiq Adams, have they? But because he's from Ghana, people think, well, he must know. And I've lived in England long enough to know that the English newspapers and the English journalists don't always know when the English players are being transferred. So I would take, as much as I want to get excited about this, this is the first time United have been truly linked with Thomas Partey since sort of the summer has... I know the window hasn't opened yet, but we're heading toward that kind of summer transfer market. This is the first time we've seen Thomas Partey linked firmly with Manchester United since the summer has approached. And I just think, I do just wonder a little bit about the validity of this. Again, Sadiq Adams is someone who is new to me. I'm not aware of his work. He is an award-winning journalist in Ghana, according to his Twitter bio. I don't know what that award was. But again, I think Thomas Partey certainly fits the profile of the sort of player United should sign. Again, but that's just coming from, that's my opinion on who United should sign. There's been a lot of talk, of course, of number 10s. Jack Grealish, James Maddison has been mentioned. We've seen a lot of that kind of thing. Declan Rice, however, was the first sort of defensive midfielder we've seen linked, and that was coming from the Telegraph yesterday. So this is maybe following a new trend. We saw Laurie Whitwell last week talking about United's interest in a defensive midfielder. He also talked about an interest in a defender as well. But a defensive midfielder was one of those players that has been rumoured with United without any names being mentioned. Sort of the opposite of Paul Pogba, where all the names are being mentioned. We know he's going to Juventus or Real Madrid, but there's actually no rumours that he's going there, if you know what I mean. Like, we're all just like, yeah, he's probably going to go to one of them, but is he? Whereas this is, United want a defensive midfielder, but we don't know who. So that's going to be a strange one that will certainly see names start to be attached to this rumour. So we're sort of getting it in reverse. Rather than it being, United want to sign this player, here's 6 other... Let's say there was a rumour came out, let's use Partey as an example. United want to sign Thomas Partey. Then what other journalists may do would be, let's look at 6 alternatives to Thomas Partey that United might have on their list, because as we know, any football club doing any sort of transfer deal has multiple targets on the list. So they want Partey, so that must mean they must want a defensive midfielder. So here are 6 alternatives to Thomas Partey. We've got Dennis Zakaria, we've got Declan Rice, etc. And we'll fill out a sort of a transfer list after we know what they want. Whereas this is more like, we think they might want a defensive midfielder because they've only really got Matic. So let's put some names, let's attach names to the position rather than we've heard rumours of an actual transfer happening. And that's my worry with this one a little bit. Declan Rice and Thomas Partey both being sort of named in the last 48 hours as players that United are interested in, with almost no evidence that they are, if that makes any sense. Partey's a really good fit, and he fits in with Pogba and Bruno in midfield. Lingard's got Raiola, though. Moves are his business. Yeah, that's not necessary. Yeah. Joe, teach me how to grow my hair. Just sit and wait for 2 years. That is my advice. Someone said Rice is shit. More of a pasta fan, seemingly. Who would you rather have, Saul, Rice, or Partey? Personally, I think in terms of ticking the boxes of a bingo card of what United need to fill, I think Partey fits more of the roles and ticks more of the boxes. I think Saul is a better player overall, but I worry that he's closer, not the same as, but closer to the mould of McTominay and Fred than Matic. And I think we need a new Matic rather than a new Matic drill, rather than another combative number 8, which is what McTominay and Fred are. In my eyes, at least. I think Saul is a better version of both of those players, but I think he fit. I don't necessarily know if he can be a holding midfielder by himself behind the likes of Pogba and Bruno. Whilst I would, if we did sign Saul, I think it'd be a brilliant signing. I think if we were only signing one of them, Partey or someone who toes the Partey line, so to speak, in terms of having a similar set of qualities, would be my ideal choice. Someone like Ndidi, someone like Partey. Obviously, Idrissa Gueye just gone to PSG last year. But that kind of player, a defensive, very high energy, very high work rate player that sits in front of the defence, makes a lot of tackles and just passes the ball to the creative players. I think if you'd asked me the same question at the start of last season, or even at the start of January, I would have gone for Saul just because I think we needed creativity. We were lacking that a lot with Pereira and Lingard playing there. But I think with McTominay coming back from injury, Fred exceeding all expectations, and now we've got Bruno and potentially Paul Pogba coming back as well. I think we've got 4 players there who can create, 2 exceptional players who can create in Bruno and Pogba. And I think if they all stay, then for me, Partey would be the first choice there. What about that guy from Leeds as a holding mid? Never seen him play, but he looks great. He looks like a psycho. Yeah, what's his name? I can't think of his name now. Leeds. Yeah, he's very highly rated, isn't he? Calvin Phillips. He was actually linked with United last summer, wasn't he? But nothing really ever seemed to come of that. From what I've heard of people who watch the Championship regularly, he's meant to be pretty sensational. But again, no link to United. Haven't seen him enough myself. Would be hard to really comment on that. Someone says, I think Salah is more effective, but I'm not sure about transfers anymore. Who's going to pay hundreds of millions of pounds on players when there's been 5 or 6 months of their home and not started this year? Well, I'm so glad you've said that, Jeremy. You've settled in like a house on fire. People don't use that saying, really. Doesn't make sense. But you've settled in like a house on fire after getting your membership today. And what I'm going to do is use you as a segue into our second topic today, which is actually a few days old. And I'm going to have to hold my hands up and say I missed this one. But my dad was talking to me about it this morning. I think it's very important that we talk about this because this is quotes from Ed Woodward himself talking and potentially, in my eyes, downplaying certainly any big moves. And I think, we'll go through it, it feels to me as though this has a sort of a Sancho point to it. Sancho Point sounds like a lovely place where high school kids go and drive their cars in America and drink beers. We're going up to Sancho Point. Right, Sancho Point. So this is obviously Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward talking on Friday about transfer speculation. He said transfers of £100 million, this has been reported by the BBC, by the way, hundreds of £100 million this summer, and is ignoring the realities of the sport because of the coronavirus pandemic, talking about those sorts of transfers being unlikely. United were linked with a £200 million move for Harry Kane and potentially spending a further £130 million on England and Borussia Dortmund wide man Jadon Sancho. From where I'm from, a wide man is just a fat lad, but in the sporting world, a wide man is a winger. Nobody should be under any illusions about the scale of the challenge facing everyone in football, and it may not be business as usual for any clubs, including ourselves in the summer, Woodward said in his opening address to United Fans Forum on Friday. So like I said, this is from last Friday, but we haven't reported on this, and I haven't reported on this, and I should have. But I think it's kind of it's almost an evergreen statement up until the transfer window opens, because it's sort of detailing a potential transfer dealings or lack thereof from Woodward. As ever, the priority is the success of the team, but we need visibility of the impact across the whole industry, including timings of the transfer window and the wider financial picture, before we can talk about a return to normality. Nobody should be under any illusions about the scale of the challenge being faced in football, and it may not be business as usual, like I said, for any clubs, including ourselves. This is sort of counter to a lot of the reports coming out earlier last week that United were one of the few clubs that could exploit this transfer window, that we won't be affected, that we're too much money on the table, too big, we'll be all right. Everyone else will struggle, but we'll be all right. This is Ed Woodward, Executive Vice Chairman, if you haven't heard of him, talking about the fact that maybe we won't be all right, or that it won't be things as we've got used to seeing them. As ever, the priority is the success of the team, but we need visibility of the impact of cost. Yeah, exactly. On this basis, I cannot help feeling that speculation around transfers of individual players for hundreds of millions of pounds this summer seems to ignore the realities that face the sport. And I'm going to read that again because it worries me. On this basis, I cannot help but feeling that speculation around transfers of individual players for hundreds of millions of pounds this summer seems to ignore the realities that face the sport. Now, essentially what Ed Woodward is saying there is, get the idea of multi-hundred million pound players being signed this summer out your head. Now, I worry for two reasons. One, because Jadon Sancho is linked to be over £100 million. And also, it suggests that there may be problems under the surface that we aren't aware of. What it also could be suggesting is just the willingness or lack of willingness for clubs to sell players, as much as it is our ability to buy them. But I do worry that he's essentially targeting the Jadon Sancho rumours with that quote. Now, maybe he's talking about Harry Kane rumours, which were coming out around a similar time, which were even more money, 200 million, 150, 200 million. But talking about, a blanket statement of players worth hundreds of millions of pounds, we're talking of 110, 120, 130 for Jadon Sancho. And that seems to sort of push down those sorts of rumours. At least, it should put some doubt into anyone's mind that thinks that, United have got all the money in the world, we'll be all right, we've got more than everyone else. If anything, we'll get more players because they all need to sell. And I was suggesting this last week maybe during the podcast or one of the other news videos, that people may be less likely to sell now, because if you're a football manager or the owner of a football club, and someone comes to you, let's say you're Aston Villa's boss, and we're coming to you saying we love Jack Grealish, and you're like, okay. And we know that you're struggling financially, so we'll give you 35 million for him. It's like, well, okay, no. First of all, what we'll do, because we don't really have that much money, what we'll do is we'll wait a year, assuming they stay up, we'll wait a year when the market sort of builds back up and levels back out again, and we'll sell him for 65 then. So there may be less deals available now. People think it's like, oh, please, we'll take 30 million, we'll take £1 for him. Take all of our players for £1, we're desperate for money. Well, the owners of football teams aren't just short-sighted children that will sell anything that I want this next toy so you can have this one for free. They might just think, hang on a sec, let's just slow everything down, basically pretend this summer doesn't exist, keep everything we've got, and we'll sell it for the actual proper price next summer. There's no guarantee that anyone will be more likely to sell just because of coronavirus. And why would you sell when your assets are worth less? sell low, buy high. Why would they do that? They're going to wait, keep hold of things until they go back up in value. Think of it as a business thing. If sell low, buy high was the motto of the stock market, we would have had a lot more recessions than we have had, and we've still had a few. Exciting. I like being back here. Gives me an extra lease of life. Or what about the Americans who say lease on life? It kind of works because if you've got a lease on your flat, haven't you? Anyway, just what we needed. No football and now no Sancho. Got nothing left. I know it's getting a bit Ian Beale in here, isn't it? Sancho is a big money signing. Grealish is your basic squad enhancement. That sounds good. That sounds like something from a video game where it's like you got to save up for the Sancho module, but your Grealish is welcome to basic squad enhancement. I don't know what I'm talking about. Joey's secretly negotiating the Sancho deal. It's not such a secret these days. I've got Zork's number on my phone. Liam here saying, I think even if Woodward is saying things as a negotiation ploy, I think the idea that United's net spend is going to be much more than the 60 million of the last few summers is delusional. That's a really good point. I can't help but agree with that. I think a big money signing or two would probably hinge on Paul Pogba leaving, and I think the current status of the market means he's less likely to leave. Back to similar points I was saying before. Are United going to take 60 million for Pogba just because the market's deflated? Or, if you were a United fan, you wouldn't think, I'll just sell him for 50 then. Because he's worth 100, but the market's gone down. Well, keep him for a year, sell him next year. Arsenal are like, we don't have any money, boom, paid 70 million for Pepe. You can't go into a room doing business and your rival knows you're rich. That's why we always find it hard to do business. There's another good point. Woodward, over the last few years, has rolled out this unique financial position quote that he uses to define Manchester United's kind of, unfair riches in terms of transfer power. And whilst that can sort of allay some of the fears of fans that we aren't investing in the squad in the right ways, what it definitely does do as well is lets everyone else know, well, they've got more money than everyone else. Look at this unique financial twat over here. I'm gonna if someone walks in, if you let's say you're a seller at a car boot sale. Car boot sales, they won't be back for a very long time. Not only is it loads of people, it's all old stuff that's been in other people's houses that you're taking into your house that some kids coughed on. Anyway, car boot sale, you're a seller, you've got your boot open, you've got all your Action Men toys that you think, you know what, it's time to get rid. And someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, you're right, mate, how much for the Action Men toys? In his kids there, he's with his kids, and you think, oh, go on, you can have them all for a £5. It's like, oh, cheers. Or some big high roller with a cigar and his gold chains and his fur coat comes up and goes, Action Men, what do you want? I'm in a unique financial position. How much do you want for the Action Men? You'd be like, I might get 100 quid for these bastards. It's almost the same thing. It's like United go to other clubs having already sort of flaunted the fact that we're the richest club in England. Of course people are going to want more for their players. Anyway, I just want to go to a car boot sale now. That's going to be all from me today. We're going to be back this afternoon for a debate as well. We're going to be getting some transfer debates in, so make sure you watch that and you comment and you give us your opinion on who United should sign. And again, if anyone who's in the Legends tier hasn't filled in the form for your data so we can send out the loot crate to you, make sure you fill that in. And again, if your YouTube name is different to your real name, reference that, because otherwise we won't know who is who. So let us know that in the comments. And if anyone would like to become a member, click the join button next to the subscribe button. We've already had one member in today. Thank you again to Jeremy Vella for that, or Vea, not sure. Thank you again for that. Like I said, back this afternoon for the debate. It's good to be back in the studio, but it's only temporary. I'm social distancing, don't you worry about me. Right. See you later, everyone.